All right, today we are diving into one of the most powerful, jam-packed descriptions of Jesus Christ that you'll find anywhere in the Bible. It comes from a short passage in the book of Colossians, and it's absolutely stunning. So, who is Jesus Christ? I mean, it's one of the biggest questions anyone can ask, right? And while there are a million different answers out there, the Apostle Paul, in the first chapter of Colossians, gives us this incredibly profound and poetic answer that has really shaped Christian belief for centuries.
What's fascinating is that most scholars think this passage was actually an early Christian hymn, like something they would sing. It's this compact, powerful declaration of faith, probably written to push back against some early false ideas that were trying to shrink Jesus down and make him less than who he truly is.
So this hymn kind of breaks down into two big ideas. Let's tackle the first one: Christ's absolute, total supremacy over the entire universe, over all of creation. So the hymn kicks off with this line. Now think about it. God is spirit, which means he's invisible. How do you see a God who is invisible? Well, this text says Jesus is the answer. He's the perfect visible representation, the very icon of the unseen God. He makes the invisible visible. And hey, this isn't just Paul's idea. The sources point out that Jesus said it himself, right? He who has seen me has seen the Father. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer or more direct than that. Okay, now we get to a line that has caused a lot of debate over the centuries: the firstborn of all creation. So does that mean Jesus was the first thing God created? Well, not so fast. The sources are really clear that if you look at the context, it's telling a totally different story. See, back in the ancient world, the word firstborn wasn't just about who was born first. It was a title. It was all about rank and inheritance rights and who was in charge. So when this hymn calls Christ the firstborn, it's not talking about his origin story. It's giving him the title of supreme rank over all of creation. He's the heir of everything. All right, let's really break this down because the evidence here is pretty powerful. First off, the passage itself says all things were created by him. So logically, he can't be one of the things that was created, right? Makes sense. Then you've got other parts of the Bible, like Psalm 89, where firstborn is used as a title for a king to mean highest rank. It's about status, not birth order. Even the grammar points this way. And to top it all off, other parts of this very letter say the fullness of deity lives in him. So when you put it all together, the conclusion is pretty clear. He isn't the first thing created. He is supreme over all creation. And this is where it gets really mind-bending. The hymn lays out his relationship to, well, everything. He's the source, creation came from him. He's the agent, it was made through him. And he's the goal, it was all made for him. But then there's this last part that is just staggering. It says, in him, all things hold together. It's not like he just wound up the cosmic clock and walked away. The text is saying he is the very force, right now, this very second, holding the entire universe together. And when it says all things, it means all things. The stuff we can see, the stuff we can't, the entire spiritual realm with all its powers and authorities. Absolutely nothing exists that wasn't made by him and for him. Okay, so that brings us to the second half of the hymn. The focus is about to pivot in a really important way. We've seen his lordship over the first creation, but now the hymn turns to his supremacy over the new creation, the story of salvation. So just like he's the boss of the original creation, this hymn says he's the boss of the new one too. He's the head of the body, the church. And here's that word again, the firstborn from the dead. These are titles of absolute authority and priority over this whole new work of God. But why was this new creation even necessary? Well, one of the sources we looked at, Martin Lloyd-Jones, puts the core problem from God's perspective like this. How can God remain just and forgive anybody? Think about that. If God is perfectly just, he has to punish wrongdoing. But he's also loving. So what does he do? It seems like an impossible problem. The text is pretty blunt about our side of the problem. It describes us as being alienated and hostile. Basically, we're cut off from God, at odds with him. And that creates this massive barrier that we have no way of fixing on our own. And that's where this word reconciliation comes in. This is so important. It's not just about us deciding to be nicer to God. It's about God taking action to tear down that barrier of sin. He's the one who changes our very status from enemies back to friends. So how does he do it?
How does God solve that dilemma of being both just and loving? The hymn gives us the answer in one powerful phrase: by making peace by the blood of his cross. According to the sources, this is it. Christ's sacrificial death is the specific act that satisfies God's justice, which then opens the door for him to extend forgiveness to us. You know, this really highlights a huge difference between Christianity and a lot of ancient religions. Back then, you had these mystery cults where all the secrets were hidden. You had to go through a bunch of hoops to get initiated. But the gospel, this amazing plan of reconciliation, it's the complete opposite. It's described as a mystery that is now shouted from the rooftops for everyone to hear. It's not a secret you earn. It's a public announcement for the whole world. Okay, so we've talked about some really big cosmic ideas. But what does it all mean for us right now? What's the so what? Why does this portrait of Jesus, written 2,000 years ago, actually matter today? Well, for one, it's like a theological vaccine, as one source put it. It protects us from any watered-down version of Jesus. It also gives us a rock-solid reason to have joy and patience, even when we're suffering, because we know who is holding it all together. And it changes our whole perspective on salvation. The goal isn't just to get out of trouble, it's to actually enjoy God again. At the end of the day, it grounds our entire life in this one reality. If you have this Christ, you have everything you could ever possibly need. The writer John Piper sums up this whole breathtaking picture so well. He says Christ is an admirable conjunction of diverse excellencies. He's a lion in his power and authority, but a lamb in his sacrifice and humility. He's a lion-like lamb and a lamb-like lion. Just think about that for a second. That combination is found nowhere else. And that really leaves us with something to chew on. Most of us, we feel weary and tired a lot of the time. But we also have this deep down longing for our lives to mean something, to be part of something great. So the question is, does this vision of Jesus, this lion who is also a lamb, does he meet us in both of those places? Is he gentle enough for our weariness and great enough for our longing? That's a question worth thinking about.